I wanted to start with a question, and the question is there. What is Christmas to you? What is Christmas to you? Is Christmas just a human invention, a festival that humans came together and thought it was a great idea and we celebrated year after year? Or is Christmas a gift from God, a divine revelation, something extraordinary, as the Bible claims? And I was thinking about this question as I was preparing this series, and the one thing that I kept coming back to was the Christmas star, because I never preach on the Christmas star. The Christmas star is sort of pushed over into little nativity services. That's what little children do, the Christmas star. But when you actually think about it, Matthew isn't writing for children. The Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not written for children. They were written for adults, and they were written to be studied. And actually, when we start to look at the Christmas star, we realize there's actually quite a lot of detail that Matthew gives us. And the other thing I thought about the Christmas star is it's such a deal breaker. It's such an obvious deal breaker. When you look at Matthew 2, verses 3, we see there that King Herod and all of Jerusalem were disturbed. And they were disturbed because they were looking at the sky and seeing something very strange in the sky. And so I wanted to just look at what Matthew says in detail about this Christmas star. I'll read to you from if you've got your Bibles open, just follow with me. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. Now, there were not three kings. Magi is a term they were like astrologers. In those days, people didn't have science and astronomy. They did astrology and they looked at signs in the sky. And the capital of that place was Babylon, northern Iraq. And we've got documents of star studies going back to the 8th century BC, which still exist today. And so we think these guys, these traveling magi, came from Babylon and they came to Jerusalem. And they asked this incredible question. They come to Herod's court and they say, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in its rising and we've come to worship him." Now remember that phrase. We saw his star in its rising. And that term, in its rising, is actually a very complex astronomical term. A star will appear once, and then when it goes behind the sun, it disappears for a time, and then will become visible a time, usually at the dawn. That's what that's called when people say a star in its rising. Okay, it disappears because it gets too close to the sun, and then it reappears. So they say to Herod, "We've seen a star in its rising, and we've come from Babylon. Where is this new king to be born?" And Herod freaks out, and he rushes off to his court officials, and the court officials say, "Well, yeah, the prophecy of Micah says that he should be born in Bethlehem." And everyone's disturbed. And then verse 7, Herod comes back and he asks them another question. He says, he calls the Magi secretly and he finds out from them the exact time the star appeared. So we have a star rising and then we have a star appearing. And the star appearing is different to the star rising. It would have probably been about a year or more previously, and we know this because later on Herod gives the order to kill all the infants in Bethlehem 2 years and younger. And if you skip down the page to Matthew 2:16, we see there when Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learnt from the Magi. The star first appears probably when Jesus is born to Mary. The Magi watch it for over a year, okay, and they document its movement and everything else, and then they see something special. They see the star in its rising, and that convinces them to take this very special journey, probably about 500 miles, across deserts and bandit country and everything you like, with their camels and with their gold, frankincense, and myrrh and end up in Jerusalem, you see. And then we get verse 9. After they had heard from the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. The Message version says they couldn't contain themselves. They were so overjoyed. So the star appears, the star rises, the star leads them to the place where the child is. Why is all of this important? You're thinking, I didn't come here for a nativity story. It's actually very important. Number one, the star reveals the time of Jesus' birth. When did Christmas happen? Number two, the star reveals the identity and the significance of who is being born. Where is the one, the Magi ask, who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in its rising, and we've come to worship him. It's a crazy question. These guys would have had their own kings in Babylon, and yet they come all this way to worship a Jewish king. Something about that star convinced them that this was no ordinary king. This is not just the King of the Jews. This is the king like no other king. This is the King of all nations, you see. And they're there. You know, when you, and I love it. I mean, when you click with who Jesus is, you literally drop everything. And so they come. And the star reveals the joy of Christmas to them. When they saw the star, they were just overjoyed. And why are they overjoyed? They're overjoyed because they've clicked that something, just completely out of the world, this world is orchestrating and controlling the events. Stuff's happening in the sky that no one can explain. That's what's so amazing about this. They just cannot ignore it. And everyone in the Christmas story, all the characters of the Christmas story, Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, the angels, Zachariah and Elizabeth, Simeon and Anna, all those characters in the Christmas story are all feeling the same way. They're petrified, but they're also overjoyed because they don't know what's going on. It's not just one thing. Christmas is never just, the angel appeared to Mary. No. The angel appeared to Mary. Mary walks out of her house. She sees a star in the sky. Lots of different things are happening. And I'm getting excited because I love Christmas. Yay! Get excited. Get excited about Christmas, you see. Well, let's go back down to earth. Let's put our science hats on for a second. The problem with Matthew's story is that stars don't behave this way. Stars don't just pop up in the sky and fly along. You can't just follow them. Stars astronomically stay in their orbits. They stay in their star constellations. They move really slowly. And plenty of people have studied this Bethlehem Star and made different proposals. What was it? What was the Bethlehem Star? Some people have said it was a supernova. Supernova is an exploding star. But the problem with the supernova is that actually it explodes and then it kind of disappears pretty quickly. It certainly doesn't hang around for up to 2 years in the sky. Other people have said it was a planet. A planet, well, you can't really follow a planet. It's a long way off. It's very hard to gauge where a planet is. But there is one thing, and it is actually the only thing in the whole universe that can appear, rise, move, hang around for about a year and rest. And that, friends, is a comet. That's what comets do. Sorry. I'll calm down, I promise. And it turns out, when you're looking for comets in history, there are loads of records about comets. The ancients saw signs in the sky all the time. Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar record comets that came in their time. Josephus, the Jewish historian writing in 66 AD, he writes that a comet hung over Jerusalem like a great scepter, and it was a harbinger of doom. People expected anything bad to happen at any moment, and it did actually. AD 70, Jerusalem was sacked and burned to the ground. But they all expected it was coming because of this giant flaming comet that appeared in the sky and just hung there. And if you move a little bit forward in history, you can read the church founding father Origen writing in the 3rd century, and he says, "The star that was seen in the east we consider to have been a new star, unlike any of the other well-known planetary bodies, either those in the firmament above or those among the lower orbs, but partaking of the nature of those celestial bodies which appear at times such as comets." Yay! We're a comet. Okay, so we may be looking at a comet, and that's all well and good. And a comet, probably what's known as a long-period comet. We get short-period comets and long-period comets. And long-period comets actually stay in the sky for much longer. Halley's Comet was a bit more of a long-period comet, and Hale-Bopp Comet, which came in 1997, was a long-period comet. And they do stay up there for longer periods of time, you see. And then I stumbled on a book, which got me even more excited. This book, invest in it, buy it for Christmas, give it to someone for Christmas, you'll bless them with it. It's called The Great Christ Comet, and it was written only a few years ago by Colin Nichol. And what Colin Nichol did, Colin Nichol is a New Testament professor in Cambridge. He's a very clever guy, and he went and decided to study the Star of Bethlehem with a team of astronomers, including the great Gary Cronk. You knew this, didn't you? Gary Cronk is the world-leading authority on comets. So they looked at comets, you see. Could Matthew's account of the comet be plausible? And Gary Cronk's, Colin Nichol's book's about that thick, and it's about yay big, because it's got lots of pictures as well, because we need pictures, because I'm not an astronomer, you see. And I've just started reading the book, and it is absolutely remarkable. And they plot this course of this comet. And it's really exciting, because for me, it brings the Bible to life. And not only that, it convinces me that Matthew is doing everything he can to show us that what is happening in the Christmas story isn't just a fairy tale, it's really true. He can't explain it, but it's really true. And that's just exciting. It makes you want to stop and pause, you know. God is orchestrating these events from the sky. And we have all this kind of language. When we say the Lord's Prayer, we say, you know, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in the heavens. What's being played out on the ground is being played out in the heavens. But we're left with a mystery. And we go back to the Magi again. And it is a mystery. You see, the Magi, sitting in their little homes in Babylon, would have seen hundreds of stars. They would have plotted loads of comets. And I wanted to know what was distinctive about this particular comet that made them get up and go across the desert and ask that specific question. You know, where is the king to be born? I mean, that's such a specific question. And this is where Nichol and Cronk come in, because this book begins to explain this. The only other place in the whole Bible where Christmas is foretold, the events of Christmas, is in Revelation chapter 12. And Donna read that for us today. And when you read Revelation chapter 12, you remember it's apocalyptic language. It's very ancient language. It's a language of symbolism. And plenty of scholars have looked at Revelation chapter 12 and seen it in astronomical language as well. A great sign appeared in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun. And in the Greek, there's the word Virgo, where we get the star constellation Virgo, where you get the word virgin from. The word virgin comes from Virgo. With the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant. She cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in the heaven, an enormous red dragon. And there you have the star constellation Draco, or Hydra. You can go and look this stuff up. It's very common astronomical language. And particularly common in this particular time period. And it had 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on their heads. And its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. And that was an interesting point, and actually Nickel and Cronk had this conversation about that. And Gary Cronk was able to say, well, actually, do you know what? That reminds me of a meteor shower. You see? And the dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment it was born. King Herod. Ooh, okay. And she gave birth to a son, a male child who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. What Cronk and Nickel demonstrate to us, and they did it actually in 3D. You can go and watch the video online in 3D. What the Magi may well have been seeing is that picture on the right. And that's the star constellation Virgo. The ancients knew about the star constellation Virgo. And the rising of the comet slap bang in the middle of the star constellation Virgo. And that's really exciting. I play that out in my head and I think, yeah, but we only just recently had the sort of software where you can actually plot that. And that's what they've done. And you can go and read the book. The book is long but and very dense, but really exciting. But what does it give us? I think it helps us to read the Bible better. We looked at the prophecy of Christmas 2 weeks ago. And now it starts to come alive. Just look at some of this stuff. When I said, on earth as it is in heaven. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. You see, on those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned, Isaiah 2. Psalm 19, 1-5. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech, night after night. They reveal knowledge without speech or language. In other words, they're just signs in the sky. Without the sound to be heard, their voice has gone out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens he has pitched a tent for the sun, like a bridegroom emerging from his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run its course. It rises at the end of the heavens and runs the circuit to the other. Nothing is deprived of its warmth. Or this one. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and the life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. You see how those passages start to come alive when actually the circumstances around you are being played out for real. And that's what's remarkable. That's what's remarkable. On earth as it is in heaven. So, is Christmas just a human invention? Or is it a supernatural gift from God? And everything I know about Christmas, I take the latter. But then if you take the latter, it just takes you into a whole new realm of, whoa, you know. But that's good. That's what Christmas should be about. We should have the awe. We should have the wonder. We should all be like little children again at our first nativity. Yes? Yeah. Think more on the star. Buy the book. I don't get a commission for the book, I promise. But buy the book. The Apostle Paul, just as I close, was preaching around the Mediterranean. This is when the early church was getting going. Somewhere miles away from Jerusalem, near Ephesus. And he's being interviewed by King Agrippa. This is Acts chapter 26. And King Agrippa's got him on trial. And he says to King Agrippa, "For the king knows about these matters. I'm not going out of my mind, King Agrippa, and I can speak freely to him. I am confident that none of this has escaped his notice because it was not done in a corner." In other words, lots of people knew about this stuff. Really weird, strange stuff, good stuff was happening at the time. Let us pray. God and Father, I thank you so much for your word to us, and I thank you for the time